I'm going to show you how to use Excel's conditional formatting capability to improve user interfaces. If you watched podcast number 4 on how to create dynamic range tables, this step will show you how to make your dynamic range tables much more maintainable. With that introduction, let's move over to Excel. So for those of you that watched podcast number 4 on dynamic range resizing should recognize this worksheet. But basically what I have here is on the left I have what is a master data table. It is my department list, and then over here think of this as a spend report by department. So over here I have vertical lookups under department that utilize the department that gets input into our cost center into column F. Here it goes over to my master data table and brings over the department name and the manager. So if I if I add a department that's not on my list over here, you can see that it comes up with a NA for basically not found for the department name. Now if I come over here, I can, since this is a dynamically resizing list, I can just put in this department, and right away you can see over here that now these resolve to 0 because it found the cost center in the list, but there's nothing in these two columns here. So if I wanted to, I could put in a department manager, and then it just automatically pulls that over. So that all works great. But if you look over here on this list, I mean, it's just a grid, so there's nothing preventing a user from coming over here. I'm just going to back up to where I was. There's nothing preventing a user from coming over here and putting, say, the department number here. Now you can see when I did that, it did not work. It didn't resolve these to 0 like it did earlier, and I could put in the department name and whatnot, and it's not going to help because the dynamic range resizing function looks for a contiguous list of data here. When it finds a blank spot, then it assumes that's the end of the range. So it gets to row 8 and that it stops, so it doesn't pick up when I add that there. So what we want to do is we want to make this a bit more intuitive for our users so that they know where to input data and not to accidentally input a new line item here and skip a row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use conditional formatting to make this list easier to understand or easier for a user to update it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to conditional formatting. I'm going to go to new rule. And this is pretty simple. I'm just going to say in here, I'm going to say, I'm going to use the isBlank function. Basically, I'm just going to say starting at, and you want to make the row or the column absolute and the row relative, because you want this this test to get pasted all the way down the rows, but you don't want it to get pasted across the column. So you have to make the row absolute, the column absolute and the row relative. And so I'm going to make it a real dark blue color, this dark blue color here. So when I hit OK here, everything below where it says President's Office is going to turn dark blue. And so that's pretty much the way it works. And now I can put in my 550 department, and now you can see now this space here lightened up, so now the user can tell, oh, okay, so this is where I need to input the department name, and it'll work correctly. So that's all fine and good, but I don't know if you noticed when I added that, it's kind of hard to see. It's not totally intuitive where to start adding the new cost center. So I'm going to make one more change here. I'm going to add one more conditional format. So I'm starting right here, directly below where my header is. I'm going to drag down and capture all the line items in this first column. And I don't have to go across all the columns in the array because I'm going to create a conditional format just on this cell to indicate to the user where to start inputting the data. So I'm going to go back to creating a new conditional format, a new rule. I'm going to tell it that I want a new format. And this one's a little bit more complicated than the last one because it's going to begin with an and, which means both of the two conditions that I put in between the parentheses here have to be true for the format to be set. So the first test is going to be I want to see if the cell that's directly above this cell is blank, but I want it to evaluate to true. So I have to kind of reverse the logic. So I'm going to use a not is blank, and I want it to be in row or in column B. And actually, since I only have one column highlighted here, I don't need to worry about relative references. But I'm starting at cell B3 here. So this first formula I'm putting in is relative to B3. So I'm going to say, look one cell above where I'm at right now, which is going to be B2. Okay, so if B2 is not blank, this is going to come back false, and then the not is going to reverse it to I'm sorry, right, if B2 is not blank, then this is going to resolve to false, and then this is going to be true. And then the other test I want to have is I want to check to see if the current cell that I'm in is blank. So is blank. This is the second part of the and it's going to be B3. All right. So what's happening here is it's cell B3, which is the cell that we're starting with. It's going to check to see if what's above it is not blank, and if it's not blank, it's going to see if the cell itself is blank, and if it is blank, then it's going to this and is going to evaluate to true. So what's going to happen here is that all these are going to end up being false. The and is going to return false until it gets here to B8, because it's going to come here to B8 and it's going to look at B7. B7 is not blank, so that part is true, but B8 is blank. And so it's going to put the highlight at cell B8. Now when it goes down to cell B9, it's going to evaluate cell B8. B8 is not blank, but B9 is blank. But it's going to evaluate the and to false because I've got a false and a true. And hopefully that makes sense. So now I just have to pick a color. I'm just going to use this yellow color here for the test. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hit OK, and there you have it. So now I can really show the user where exactly to input the data here. And so when I hit this, now this row is going to open up, and now I can put in cost accounting here, and you can see what happened. It opened up the next column down for the user to input the next record in, and it indicates, hey, you should start the next record here where I'm indicating with the yellow cell. So here we're using Excel to kind of leverage our user interface, and we don't have to do it through any kind of programming, and our list just grows automatically. We're using the dynamic resizing and the conditional formatting to make this a pretty sophisticated little user interface without any kind of Visual Basic coding. We hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe and comment down below to help us improve our content. Feel free to visit our website to learn more about our services at profitwise.com, and have a great day.